there, he said, and I saw a certain man, it said he was clothed in linen. He says his loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. What is he talking about here? Now you know that gold is not, well, what some of y'all have on your neck, that's not gold. Especially the one that have green. When you get home and you take it off and there's a ring. I'm not even talking about y'all. But purest gold in the purest form, it's see-through, it's clear. So when we start talking about walking streets of gold, you're not talking about walking streets of gold looking down and not being able to see beneath you. The purest form of gold is when you look through it, it looks clear. He said, I saw a certain man showed up in this vision, and I saw clarity that I hadn't seen before. What fasting does is it gives you clarity. He said, I started seeing things that were once blocked off to me. He said, and I saw him clearly. He said his body also was like the barrel. Wait a minute. Barrel. Now, what is the barrel? The barrel is of the emerald family, but they call it the barrel because the barrel encompasses two different colors. It's the color blue, which is the color of the heavenlies. It's the color of the prophetic. It's the color of dreams. It's the color of revelation. It's the color that represents limitless power. He said, I see the barrel. How do I see it? Because as I look through the gold clearly, I see the limitless God. I see that there's nothing too hard for him. I see that he's high and we're low. I see that he is the epitome of everything that we dream to be. I see through the gold that you're the heart of my contentment. You are the hope for all I do. I look through and I can see that you're the center of my joy. Not only is it the color blue, but it is also the color green, which represents eternity. It is the color of the Godhead fullness. It is the color that represents human prosperity and an uninterrupted sequence of order. He said, I see God in limitless power, operating in the heavenlies without interruption. I look through and clearly see that he is God, and besides him there is no other. I see clearly now that he is the originator of all things, not only present but things past and things to come. I see clearly now. He may not have come when I wanted him to come, but I clearly see now he's always right on time. I saw barrel when I looked through. I saw that God had not forgotten the prophetic words that were spoken over my life. He said, I saw these when I looked at him, and I saw this eternally. He said, I saw that God is faithful. I looked through and I saw eternally his posture was not yielding. I looked through and I didn't have to worry about God changing on me. I looked through clearly and saw that he was God yesterday, he's God today, and he's God tomorrow. I looked through and I was able to see, not only has he never failed me yet, but he ain't gonna fail me by this time tomorrow. I looked through clearly and I was able to see that God is faithful. Oh, so faithful. You are so faithful to me. I looked through clearly and saw the unchanging posture of God. I saw that who he was, he is, and he will always be. I saw barrel. Then he said, not only did I see the barrel, he said, and I saw his face as the appearance of lightning. That's how fast lightning is. A little bit faster. The speed of light. It is faster than the naked eye. He said his face looked like lightning. So it was lightning. He said it was like lightning. What he was saying is, I see the glory of God in transition. Lightning hails from one heavenly atmosphere into another firmament. He said, I see him coming from one environment to the next. If you haven't caught it yet, he saw the Messiah. He said, I see salvation coming from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. I saw his face. Lord Jesus, I'm trying to move through here. He said it looked like lightning. There was something else that I saw here. He said, I saw his face look like lightning and his eyes were like lamps of fire. Lamps of fire, fire. Now, no, we don't like fire because when we look at fire, fire can be intimidating if you get too close. You don't want to touch fire. You don't want to handle or deal with fire. And he said his eyes were like lamps of fire. He said something to the priest. He said, I'm going to put a lamp in here. It's going to be for revelation, but y'all make sure that the lamps, the candles in here, that they burn continuously. Don't let the revelation go out in God's house. Don't let the revelation go out of your singing. Don't let the revelation go out of your preaching. When you lose your revelation, you end up doing what you're doing dry. He said, if you let your light go out, it means that there's been a lacking of oil. So when he starts talking about the fire in his eyes, he said the oil is still burning strong in his life. But he wasn't talking about a consuming fire. He was talking about the word for fire meant passion. Yes, sir. He said, when I saw God in this vision and God looked at me and I looked at him, I saw God's passion towards me. When I looked at him, I saw a gleam in his eye that said, boy, I love you. Your daddy didn't want you, but I love you. Your mama didn't want nothing to do with you. Tried to abort you, but in my eyes, he said, I saw the lamps burning. It was like fire and the passion in our relationship has not left. And interesting enough, he sees something that somebody else in the Bible saw. I want to say that his name was John the Revelator, not John the Beloved, but John that had the revelation of the Lord on the Isle of Patmos. Anybody know John the Revelator? And while John was on the Isle of Patmos, John began to talk in similitude to what Daniel saw. Now, John says of the vision, he said that I saw him, his hairs and his head, it was white like wool. God, we've used that to talk about God being black, white, blue, purple. We use that to talk about it, and I don't want to argue about that because I don't want to make anybody mad here. But he said his hair was white like wool. It wasn't about his color. It was about his purity. He said it was white like wool. It encompassed and it embraced the revelation that Daniel had of him in the book. He said he's the ancient of days. What was Daniel saying? It said he's old, but he ain't in no danger of forgetting anything. He said he's old, but he ain't worried about suffering from amnesia. He's old, but he's sturdy. Old as he is, he ain't up for retirement. He's an old God. And John the Revelator said his hair, it was white like what? Like wool. Wool is what you pull from the sheep. So what he said is he was old and he had enough love and compassion for the sheep that he didn't leave the sheep in the yard. He put the wool on his head so that when we see Christ, we see him bearing us up. He said his hair was like wool. Not only is it like wool, but John said his eyes was like a flame of fire. Daniel saw it in the Old Testament. John said he still loves you at the end of the book. I know you made a whole lot of mistakes, baby, but he still loves you. I'll touch your neighbor and say he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. He's not through with you yet. I know your family is tired of you. Oh, but he loves you. Eyes. Somebody should have shouted off of the love of God right there. Eyes like a flame of fire. They were piercing. They were convincing. See, when you're in love with somebody, you don't always have to say, I love you. Sometimes a look in your eye says we're not going to be here long. We got to get out of here real quick. You learn how to make communication with your eyes. He said, when I looked at his eyes, I was convinced of his love. See, it doesn't make sense trying to chase somebody that doesn't want you, because you end up wearing yourself thin when God may be trying to bless you with something better. Somebody may not like your hips, lips, and fingertips, but what one won't do, Some of y'all had to go through divorce to learn it, but I won't. He said, revelation. He hadn't changed his mind. I saw the eyes of God. They were knowing and they were experienced. I was watching the news the other day, my wife and I, and we were looking at the civil rights leader who just died, Lady Height. We were looking at her on TV and we looked at her face. She was born in 1912. She lived to see war. She lived through segregation. She lived through racism. She was spat on, and when I looked at her eyes, for the first time I saw the beauty of age. Every wrinkle on her face told a story. Wonder when you first started molding like that. And at her age, she had a graceful smile. She was unapologetic. Some of y'all having a midlife crisis because you're 50 and you're old, you feel old, and don't nobody want you, and you're looking, oh my God, I have a gray hair. Oh my God, it fell. Oh my God, it shrunk. And when you looked at her face, there was a certain joy that she had. Lord have mercy. When you looked at her face, I saw historic files that the younger will never be able to identify. And I thought about our ageless God. What does God's face look like? Hundreds of years he's been God. Yeah, he's been God a long time. Daniel said, Ancient of Days. He's seen your situation come and go. You might think that you're the only one with your struggle, and you got the saints right now that have these woe is me stories like you're the only one going through. I promise you, God has dealt with this before. He's got your number. He's got your record. You're not the first one that has somebody walk out on you. He's seen it before. There are people that went through worse than what you're going through, and God has given them divine recovery. Stay with him. He's old enough to deal with your issue. He's seen this across his desk numerous times. You know you married and have a desire for a child, and you in your 50s crying. Why don't you look through his files and find a woman by the name of Sarah? When Sarah, you really don't want me to do roll call and just start talking about the folks God brought through at a time called too late. He said, I'm old. Eyes like flames of fire. Then it said his feet were like fine brass. The color of them. Now the difference in what John saw and what Daniel saw is that he said, I see his feet like fine brass, but Daniel said they were polished. He said his legs still, after all this time, his legs still look good. What is he talking about here? God is sturdy. A whole lot of us tried to play God for somebody else, but God's job is not up for discussion. He's sturdy. I'm glad God didn't let some of the people in my life be God, because if it was, we would have got written off a long time ago. He was sturdy. He could have killed me when I was on drugs, but he was sturdy. He could have taken me out when I was knocking on doors as a Jehovah's Witness, but he was sturdy. When other people moved out on you, he stayed right there. Through thick and through thin, his sturdy. Some of y'all thought God was going to walk out on you, but somebody just ought to just move your feet and say he's moving. I don't care who trying to chase him out your life. He ain't going nowhere. They were like polished brass. You know what he was saying, don't you? He said, the vision I see are not legs that ain't gone through nothing. He saw him tried. Tried by what? Because you only get polished brass when legs stood through the right fire. Which means that God is so bad that he stood through fires with folk long before you. And the fires from yesterday ain't taking them out. And he's going to stay in the fire with you. David said this. He said, if I make my bed in hell, Thou art sturdy. Excuse me. Thou art there. A few of y'all know what we're talking about tonight because you made your bed in hell. And you made your blanket and your comforter there. And while you were making your worst decisions, God was sturdy, right? Oh, you ought to just look around your life and see folk that walked out on you, said you never leave, but God said you love me and left me, but God stood there on fire, burning. Daniel said, I see his feet. He said, they are like the color of brass. He said something else. He said, oh yeah, and I see his arms too. Arms represent reach. So that when you were in your hell, God still knew how to reach. Somebody tried to send you to counseling and the counselor couldn't reach you. But while you were in a relationship that mama tried to bring you out of and daddy and your brothers tried to beat them up out of, God said, I got reach. He said, I know what to do. Well, other folks made mistakes. Reach. Some of y'all got some sons and daughters you praying about right now, and I want you to know that God's arms are right there in the midst of the fire. You can't reach them, but God got long arms, you know. Oh. Somebody throw your hands up and just start reaching. Oh. Some of y'all did it because I asked you, but there were a few of y'all that start reaching and really found something. Some of y'all need to keep on pulling right there. Something's happening in the spirit realm. Hit it harder, don't hit it at all, sir. Arms. Oh. Yeah, yes. Keep on pulling them out. The enemy's trying to push them deeper with it, but keep on pulling. I know it looks bad, but keep on pulling. Don't give up on God because he won't give up on you. Keep on. I saw his feet. They were defined and they were costly. See, we don't serve a high priest that can't be touched by the feeling of our infirmity. When you got burned, he got burned right with you. He understands your pain. He understands your struggle. He said, I was there, polished. Tell your neighbor, say, I don't look like what I've been through. I'm almost finished. Oh, yeah. Shout out again, I don't look like what I've been through. You wouldn't know I went to jail if I didn't tell you I don't look. Some things I thought I'd never heal from, but if he was going to kill some of y'all, he should have did it a few years ago. But God, the car was totaled, but I survived to tell the story. Lord have mercy. He said, another thing he had. He said his voice was like many waters. His voice was not limited to one sound. Y'all didn't shout over that, but you had to know he was talking about the Lord. He said his voice was not just restricted to my struggle. Right. He said he was talking to me about mine. But while I was hearing the voice, I heard him speaking in Chinese. I don't know what he was saying, but there was some folk in some other countries that while he was dealing with me, he didn't miss my brother who had an issue in Swahili. And I heard him talking to somebody over in Japan that needed a breakthrough, and he was specific to my need. It sounded like a whole lot of people talking at the same time. Somebody's getting one thing out of this word and somebody else getting an entirely different thing. But one voice, sundry assignments, sounded like a multitude. Daniel said something of him. He said, I was praying. And as I was praying, Gabriel comes and says to him, Daniel, God sent me with your answer 21 days ago. I looked and I thought about how long the advertisements have been pushing for this meeting. Do you not know it started just in the beginning of April? In the first month, he said, when you first told me you wanted latter rain, I heard you. I know one of the other preachers probably talked about what latter rain was by now, but let me just indulge for a moment. Latter rain is a season where the latter rain is literally called mercy rain. Anybody talked about mercy rain yet? Well, I might as well go for it. Mercy rain to the people of God is God's going to let something fall from the heavens that I don't deserve. Oh, there's a few guilty people in here right now that ought to appreciate mercy rain. I know some of y'all deserve it. You dotted every I, crossed every T, but there's a few of us that need mercy. What did this cover? It is when the planter neglected to sow seed at the proper time. And because you failed to sow proper seed, what you reap from the ground is going to be lacking if God doesn't intervene with his mercy. So what he says is, I'm going to let you have latter rain. Latter rain is when there should be a certain amount of rain, because 365 days God has held back the clouds of spring so that they don't peak out during the winter. He's held back the winter clouds so you don't confuse winter clouds with clouds of harvest or summer. But latter rain pulls clouds from seasons that clouds should not even show up in. What mercy speaks on your behalf and starts snatching stuff you neglected in seasons past, pulling the cloud in with what you would have had in seasons future, and making yesterday and tomorrow collide right now. Somebody ought to run over that right now. He said, where you failed, I'm going to reach back in winter, and I'm going to make it like you never made that mistake. Somebody that made a mistake and you need God to reign anywhere, you need to take a run around the building, because I'm here to tell you, latter rain is when God does it in a hurry. Yes, God. Oh, Shamananda Yosa. Rotamandan Sokore Media Sotesha. Yondanda Rebekosi Andananda Shotoramandandesa. Come on. He's pulling clouds from yesterday. He's pulling clouds from your tomorrow. what you were supposed to do. But God was sturdy in the midst of it all. He saw you running right now. And so what he's going to do, he's going to credit you for where you failed to make proper deposit. He said, I'm going to advance you. That's it. That's it right there. It ain't for everybody. But it's for those of y'all that know God will give you houses that you did not build. He says, oh, yeah. Stay on it. Stay right there. Don't move till I tell you. Stay right there. He said, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to send rain from the second heaven. That's where principalities reside. He said, I'm going to send mercy rain in the enemy's face because the enemy knows how bad you messed up. He said, and I'm going to rain on you anyway. Woo! Have mercy, Lord. Mercy rain. This kind of rain, you don't put an umbrella up for it. But when you know you've been in trouble deep, you let it rain on you. He said, I'm going to let it rain. Whew. Few of us messed up and got it wrong a whole lot more than we got it right. So it don't matter what your position is. Doesn't matter what title you have. The thrust of the text is on God. Gabriel said, when you pray, evangelist, I don't think they're getting this. Let me put it to you this way. Daniel got his greatest revelation of God while he was in prison. John was on an Isle of Patmos and saw God while he was in isolation in prison. God don't have to bring you out of your prison in order for him to show you his glory. He said, I'm going to do this while you're still in trouble. Somebody ought to shout in this place. Somebody ought to shout in this place. Somebody ought to shout in this place. Oh God, you don't have to bring me out of it. All you gotta do is show me who you are. I'm finished. John said, I saw him. Daniel calls him old. John said his hair is white. He's not trying to use Geritol. He don't have a problem showing his age because his age shows his experience. His age shows his capability. I got one question for you, sir. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Come on and give the Lord some praise. Come on, let me hear you bless him. He's God enough to do it. 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 Latter rain is falling. Latter rain is falling. Mercy rain is falling. Reach up and catch it. I need your mercy. I need your grace. I need your favor. I need your touch. I need your hand. I need your anointing. I need your angels. I need divine rescue. Why? Why? Why in the hell did hell try to fight Daniel's prayer? Because Daniel was seeing too much of God. Didn't see all of them. But the parts he knew, the principalities of the air didn't want earth to get the revelation Daniel got. And so he said, I gotta try to fight his response before they hear on April 23rd, 2010, that by this time tomorrow, April 24th, is a day where a revelation of God like you never had is going to rain on your house. It's going to rain in your spirit. It's going to rain in your heart. It's going to rain in your soul. It's going to rain in your mind. It's going to rain fresh mercy, fresh grace, fresh opportunity, fresh chance, fresh joy, fresh peace, fresh prosperity. Tell your neighbor by this time tomorrow. You grab the wrong neighbor. Turn on the other side. Say by this time tomorrow, something's going to break for me. Something's going to break over my marriage. Something's going to break over my health. Something's going to break on my career. Something's going to break. Something's going to break. The enemy trying to break me before I recognize it. One thing that won't break. I won't be broken. I won't be distracted. For greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. Put somebody else on those drums. Greater is he that is in me. Greater is he that is in my prayer life. Greater is he that is in my heart. Greater is he that is in my uplifted hands. Greater is he that is in my shouts. Greater is he that's abiding in me. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Is there a shout of glory? Come on, Zion. Let the heavens hear your praise. Sending your request up the ladder. God sending a response right back down. Shake yourself. Shake yourself. Shake off the old you. Shake off the weak you. I know it's been a long day at work, but by this time tomorrow, just stay right there. Some getting ready to break. Hold it. Stay right there. Stay right there. Keep playing just like that. There it is. There it is. While Daniel was praying, Gabriel's wings start flapping. 21 days I was held down. Then I was able to come to you. Because God sent Michael to help me. Devil, I hope you didn't think I was going to end this message without talking about Michael. Michael's job is to fight. Gabriel wasn't nobody's fighter. Gabriel was a pretty boy. He had a voice that was smooth enough to talk Mary into having a relationship with God. Gabriel was smooth. Michael didn't have good people skills. You only brought Michael out when you needed somebody that was willing to fight. Some of y'all were that person in the family. You weren't the good cop, you were the bad cop. And so they didn't give you all the information because they knew you was a little bit crazy. Michael is designed to sit on edge with his sword drawn. When